Hi guys, welcome back to Just Carve Rob, Just Carving. We're still on this little wizard guy here. So what we're going to do today is finish his hand. And then we're going to put something in his hand. Haven't decided what yet, but we're going to put it in there. Okay, so let's get set up and just carve. Okay, we're going to start out, I think, by getting our hand shaped. Getting our cloak rounded over here. So what do you think about that wizard Jordy just did with the dragon horn? Or dragon tooth. It's a dragon tooth. Or is it a horn? I think he said it was a tooth. Might be a horn. I think it came out pretty cool. Yeah. Now remember, Carving Fusion is having a live chat tomorrow night. 5 o'clock Pacific, and that puts it about 8 o'clock my time, which is Eastern. So don't miss out on that, guys. Old Jordy, he's a hoot and a half. Get it, Jordy? Hoot! Jordy likes making owls, so that's an owl pun for Jordy. The hoot. Hoot, hoot. Hey, you go on his channel. Do that. In the comment section, just put down hoot. H-O-O-T. Hoot. Or W-O-O-T. Woot. Whatever sound an owl makes. Okay, I think when you're doing hands, the shape of the hand is probably more important than the actual fingers on the hand. So always try to make it look, you know, when your hand's closed, you see how wide it is here and how skinny it is back by the wrist. So we always try to do that. We try to bring in the wrist, if you can see the wrist, like this guy, because he's holding the staff and his cloak is kind of dangling there. Only part of his hand. You can only see part of his hand. Need to shorten that up a bit back there. Make it look right. There we go. I think that looks about right. So now on this hand, his arm is almost straight down by his side. So the cloak is going to be a little shorter. Because you know how it is when you reach out. Your shirt kind of raises up on you. If you're wearing a long sleeve shirt. So we're going to assume the same thing happens with a cloak. When your arm's up and bent like this guy's, it's kind of baggy and saggy, and when it's straight out, it's kind of it's more straight, right? So more of the hand will show. And you can see how much more oversized this hand is from this hand. So we got to bring this hand down quite a bit. Which is, like I always say, it's easier to bring that stuff down, you know, make it larger. You might like it larger, you know, it might be that part of the caricature, because whenever you do a caricature, I always kind of pick one part of it and make it abnormally big, so it's kind of funny. That's me. That's what I like to do. Because if you ever been to the carnival or whatever, and they always got them guys that draw, they draw caricatures. Those guys are always making something, like if you got a bigger jaw, they'll make your jaw funny, or if you got a bigger nose, they'll make your nose bigger. Or if you got the big ears, they'll make your ears bigger. Okay, so I think we got that hand roughly shaped. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put a hole in his hand so he can carry something. I don't know what it is yet. I'm almost thinking like, let's see, our other wizard here, he's got the dragon blade, right? And he's got his staff. And he's got his pokey thing on the back of the staff. Oh, this guy's got a staff too, we made. This will get more work done to it yet. So, see, he's got his staff. So we can put a sword in here, or we could put, I don't know, we could put a spear in here. I don't know. Haven't really thought about it. I've been too busy with all the rest of them. So as we go along here, we're just going to go ahead and put a hole in his hand, and then we'll figure out what we want to do as we move through it. Let's see. We got these diamond burrs here. I have several boxes of these little diamond burrs. So let's see, I think we'll take this one. This one's bigger. Okay. So put that in our Dremel. Make sure it's not bottomed out. Pull it back about 1/16 of an inch. Okay, and then we got to find our foot pedal down here someplace. Okay, there the foot pedal is. I just got to come over here by me. And okay, so this is the knuckle side of the hand here. Your thumb would be over here. So we're gonna go ahead and smoking. Yes, it's smoking. Okay, so we popped the hole through there. Now let's see. His hand is on this side. About that big. So on this side, pretty close. Pretty close. So now what we gotta do is figure out where we're gonna put our fingers. So then this would be his thumb. So we'll just draw in his thumb real quick. Something like that. Okay. And then we need get some fingers. I don't know. May have to cut this down back here a little bit, or get the knuckles down on it. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Get the shape of the hand right. Okay, so we got the wrist is up in here, and then it's the flat part of your hand, like that, and then here, and then there, right? So we got the flat part of our hand here, and then it comes down. Something like that. So there's the back of our hand, and then our knuckles this way. Like that. So you flip back of your hand, your knuckles, and then your fingers. So we got to flatten that out a little bit. Oh! That's why you don't leave that stuff in there. Just cracked his other hand. Now we're going to have to glue it. I hate gluing. You can get your hands done, guys. Make sure you take your fighting utensils out of them, because that's what will happen. Must have been using my thumb against his hand, and I cracked his fingers. Cracked his knuckles. Sure did. And I'd say 90% of the time when I carve hands, if I'm going to put a hole in the hand, I always do it before I start the fingers. Because once you carve your fingers in, you know, they're basically two size. Once you got your fingers two size, it don't leave you much room for error. And error by error, I mean, once you got your fingers carved to size and you try drilling that hole in them, and they could chip off real easy. So always be aware of that part of it. Carving fingers or a hand, I always put my hole. If he's going to be holding something, I always put my hole in it first. Because then you can kind of work your fingers in around the size hole you got. Ooh, my neck just cracked. See? If you want to put his staff in this hand, you can do that. I think before we get too much more carried away, I am going to separate this where it cracked. So you always got to be aware of what you're doing. Where's that stick? There it is. There's his walking stick. Okay. So we can use that to kind of force that open a little bit. Yeah, of course that didn't go anywhere near where I wanted it. Now at this point, you got a choice. You can either put the staff in where you want it and just glue the whole works together, or you can glue it separately. Usually the best way to do it is to put that staff in there where you want it and glue it in place. So now you're making all this separate, one piece again. I think we'll be okay like that. We got enough glue down in there. I'm just trying to get the glue back out of the hole here. We got enough glue on his fingers. They should be all right. Should be fine. Fine like frog hair. Yes, it's a slow and tedious process, cutting the fingers in. We still have a monster challenge to get to yet. Ooh, there's the pedal for the dremel. We still have a monster challenge to address yet. We got till, I think he said May or March. 2 months. So, but as fast as I carve, it may take me 2 months. Okay, this is basswood, guys. In case I didn't mention it. Basswood. I'm just going back over right now and rounding everything over because our fingers are not square. See how we got our thumb sticking out there? And we're kind of putting that forefinger, like the thumb's over the forefinger. And you can make your hands as detailed or not, you know, because once the things that you, if you're doing it for him to hold like a walking stick or his staff or whatever you're doing, once that goes in there, you know, once you put that whatever it is in there, especially if it's like a knife with a oh, what's that called? The guard thing there. You really won't ever even see the thumb again. Unless somebody's really looking for it. You'll never see it. Because you look at my other wizard here. Where did he go? There he is. He's hiding. I mean, he's got his thumb and everything in there. But once you put the dragon blade in, you can't even see the thumb on the other side because of this guard here. And the same thing even with the staff. There is a thumb down in there, but you really don't see it because between the dragon blade and the staff, that's why I said you can make it as detailed as you want it or not. Because a lot of things, nobody will ever know they're there except you. Now I'll have everybody looking for thumbs on everything I do from now on. Hey, they didn't put that thumb in there. Okay, there's his thumb. Normally, on bigger guys, I'll separate the thumb, you know, this is your hand, right? I'll separate this. This will be, you know, like if you're gripping something, let's say you're gripping something. A lot of times I'll separate it right here, right down in here. But on these smaller guys, because everything becomes so fragile as you work them, I don't do that. I'll bring the fingers around. See, like up in here, we got our fingers around, our thumb over, and a lot of times I'll cut this section out on bigger guys, but on these little guys I don't do it just because I'm afraid that the fingers will snap off. Because I mean, you look at how thin the fingers here are, probably just under 1/8 of an inch. So you got to be careful with that. Okay, I like the shape of that hand. That's working. Got the back of our hand. We've got our fingers here. Just put a little more of just a little bit because we're getting pretty thin. Okay. I think that's all we're going to do with that, guys. I think that's going to be the hand that we're dealt. Right there. That's all we're going to do. Just clean this up down here. Get the fuzz out of there. Get the fuzzies out of there. Like that. Okay, his hand is ready for fingers. So, to do 4 fingers, you only need 3 lines. One, 2, and the pinky back there, 3. Split that up a little more evenly. They 3 lines, 1, 2, 3, and gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. See how that works? Getting that last line in there, cutting that last line is going to be a challenge. Okay, now we can use a knife, we can use our Dremel with the fine bit, or we can use a V-tool. Dealer's choice, whatever you like to use. I think since we've already got this this pointy needle diamond in here, we're just going to use this. We're going to try just using the Dremel. See? There you go. 5 fingers and a thumb. I don't know why Jordy freaks out over fingers so much. The other day he's like, oh, I hate doing fingers. Always leave my hands to the last. Well, I do too, Jordy. It's one of the last things I'll do when I'm carving something is the fingers. Which is kind of ridiculous because if you mess them up, that's going to be like the first thing you got to fix, right? Okay, so them fingers are cut in there nice and deep. So now what we're going to do is come back across and put fingertips. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm using the dremel to round my fingers over. Okay? So that's all I'm doing right now. Now, if you're thinking, hey, the fingers are looking like they're getting a little thin, you know, if you don't like your fingers and you think they're getting a little thin, because you're rounding them over, they're going to look thinner. But believe me, once you stain it or paint it or whatever you're going to do to it, they will thicken back up. And if they still look thin, go back and sand them down a little bit. By sanding them, because you're creating a point on the finger, right? By rounding them. So if you want to sand them, you sand them down a little bit and they'll get wider again. Okay, I got my wood burner. Everybody keeps asking me about this wood burner. Okay, this wood burner came from Amazon. I think it was like 50 bucks, one of the cheaper ones. I bought this particular one because it has a digital control on it for your heat settings. So that's why I bought that one. This one. Jordy bought one from Amazon that has, it doesn't have the digital heat settings. It has a analog type dial on it. And that's the one he uses. And he got his from the Amazon store too. And I think he said he paid like 50 bucks for his. So that's just a little information for you on the wood burner, okay? I use my wood burner a lot. Especially on high detail areas. It makes them stand out better. And when I paint or stain, I usually water that stuff down so you can still see the wood grain through it. And by burning it with the wood burner, it like antiques it. The darker shades will actually still shine through, or show through, not shine through, but they'll show through for you. sure we get that around that thumb. And on camera, because this wood is white, it helps you guys to be able to see it too. Because if I do it with pencil, paint don't like the pencil, so we end up with where I have to go back and try getting that pencil, cut that pencil lines out of there. So there again, this is all personal preference, guys. I like to wood burn it. You don't have to if you don't like it. You know, that's all up to you on how you like the appearance of your guys, wizards, hillbillies, whatever you're carving. I just happen to like it, so I do it. And on these smaller guys, I use the wood burner to, a lot of times I just use the wood burner for cutting in the hairs and stuff. Because it will cut in hairs. Here, I'll show you. And the slower you go, the deeper it'll cut them in. So you can use your wood burner for doing the hairs. I sent Rich Choose Your Own Path, the beaver that we're working on in concert here. And I sat there for, I don't know, probably 2 hours, 3 years, something like that, cutting all those little hairs that a beaver has in his body. Just sitting there for hours doing this. You know, doop, 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 making all them little hairs. Okay. So, there he is with some burning done. Now you can see his fingers on this hand. You can see his fingers on that hand. We're going to do a little up under his cloak here. Yeah, I think that's all the wood burning we're going to do, because I think if we get up in here where his face is, by his eyes, I think the wood burner will actually burn that detail away. The other nice thing about a wood burner is it gets rid of the fuzzies down inside there, like in between the fingers and whatever. You get like these little hairs sticking up, and I don't care how much you sand it. It never seems like I can get rid of those hairs. And I've gone to 1500 grit sandpaper, but yet the wood burner gets rid of them without all that sanding. So once you start sanding, you start losing detail. Or at least that's the way it works in Rob's world. Okay, so I said I'd do a little tutorial on the carving the hands, and I have. I think he still looks a little flat, a little fat down here around the base. So I think we're gonna have to get rid of some of that. See, I probably should have done that before I carved these fingers in.